Hi everybody, it's Miss Marie. And today in our story time, we are going to be reading stories about the library and learning about how important it is to get a library card because September is library card sign-up month. So if you don't already have a library card and you are 5 years old, you can write your name, you can take your grown-up with you and go to the library and get your own library card and check out books on your own card, which is really fun. So I'm going to be reading you some fun stories about the library. One is about being in the actual library, and one is about a school library. We're going to be doing a rhyme about the library card. And I hope everybody enjoys that, and I hope that you also stop by the library before the end of the month and pick up a library card holder kit too that we have. We have a little craft kit to make your own library card holder. All right, so the first story we're going to read today is a very silly story. It's called Chicken Story Time. I hope you've all come to the library for story time. We didn't have any chickens there, but let's see what happens if you do have chickens at your story time. This book is by Sandy Asher and illustrated by Mark Fearing. And there on the end pages, we see a lot of chickens, big and little, sitting on the books with the books on the library shelves. And this book is published by Dial Books for young readers. And over here, we have a chicken peeking around the corner of the bookshelves. And here's one trying to get in on the reading that this child is doing over here. Let's find out about this. Look at this. Public library. Story time at the library. Tales to tales. Don't forget to read to your dog. That's what the poster says. And the chicken is reading that sign. Thinking, huh? Story time at the library. Look. There's a bunch of kids and grown-ups heading into the library for story time. Oh, who else is there watching? One librarian, one story, children, and a chicken who snuck in the window over here. It's very distracting to the children too. The children like the chicken. The chicken likes the children. Let's begin, says the librarian. Everyone loves story time. And look, there's the chicken sitting patiently with the children, listening to the stories. 1 week later, story time at the library. I see a little bit more chickens. Do you see them? 1, 2, 3, 4, I see. One librarian, one story, more children, and more chickens. Oh dear. I guess the children heard about the chickens, or the chickens heard about the children. They all just really like story time. The children like the chickens. The chickens like the children. Please be seated, says the librarian. Everyone loves story time. Everyone's sitting there patiently, listening to the stories, including the chickens. 1 week later, story time at the library. I see a lot more chickens and a lot more children. One librarian, one story, many children, many chickens. Oh my goodness. This might be getting to be too many. Let's see. The children laugh. Do you see the chicken on the computer? The chickens cluck, 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 cluck. Settle down now, says the librarian. No one can hear her. Cluck, 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 cluck. Let's begin, she says. Cluck, 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 cluck. And now the children are moving around and dancing like chickens and being very, very silly. Cluck, 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 cluck. Please be seated, she says. Cluck, 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 cluck. Oh no, they're riding on the library book carts. This is very dangerous. Settle down, she says. Cluck, 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 cluck. Oh my goodness. She's lost control. The librarian's lost control here. Children and chickens everywhere, but only one librarian. What are we to do, she says. Cluck, 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 cluck. And then do you see the light bulb going off in her head? I mean, she has an idea. Story time at the library. Lots of children, flocks of chickens. What's going on? How come they're so quiet and settled down? Shelves and shelves of stories. The children like the chickens like the children. Everyone loves story time. Oh, so now the children are doing their own story times for the chickens. That's so much fun. Everyone loves story time, especially the librarian. And there she is having her cup of tea and a muffin and reading quietly to herself while the children and the chickens are doing their own story times. And that is so funny. I love that book. And on the last page, we see somebody else entering into the story. Do we see the duck? So now I think it's going to be ducks at the story time too. Ducks at the library. And that's the end of the story. It was a really fun one. I really enjoyed that one. This book takes place at a school library, and it's called Little Library, and it's written by Margaret McNamara and Brian Karras. And when we open up the pages, the end papers have all these great woodworking tools. Let's see what happens at the Little Library. And this book is published by Schwartz Wade Books. One breezy spring afternoon, Mr. Tiffin told his class, "Our new library's finally open. Time to meet our new librarian." "I'm excited," said Jeremy. "Me too," said Charlie and Alex together. "Me three," said Molly. "I could stay here and sharpen pencils," said Jake. Jake was a slow and careful reader. Sometimes he read the same page more than once so he couldn't figure everything out. When it came to library day, Jake felt left behind. Oh, he's a little nervous. I guess he doesn't think he's a strong reader. Let's see. The new library smelled like fresh paint and wood. "Welcome, everybody," said a friendly-looking person. "I'm Beck Good. Please call me Librarian Beck. I'm here to help you find books to love." "When you open a book, you open your mind," said Eleanor. When you open a book," said Jake. So Jake doesn't want to open a book. "Why don't you explore the library for a while," said Librarian Beck. "That will help me get to know you." Kimmy headed to the science section. Alex and Charlie hunted for a story they could read together. Tara found the art books and looked for paintings by women. Jake wandered over to a corner shelf. He studied the bookcase to see how the pieces fit together. He ran his fingers along the grooves in the wood. Do you see him over there examining the bookshelves? He's not looking at the books like the other kids. After a while, Librarian Beck came to talk to him. "See what you think of this," they said. Librarian Beck put a heavy book into Jake's hands. It was old and worn. "Woodworking for Young Hands," read Jake. He opened the book. The first pages were filled with drawings of tools. Jake already knew the names of some of them. "That one's an awl," he said. "My Gramps has a workshop." Oh, so he's found something he's interested in. Jake handed the book back to them. "This has a lot of pictures," he said, "so it doesn't count as reading." "Says who?" said Librarian Beck. "A lot of people," said Jake. "Not me," said Librarian Beck. Jake checked out the book. He let it sit for a while. When he got home, he had other things to do. He's catching his ball. There's the book. After a few days, he read the instructions for the first project and the second. They didn't make a lot of sense to him. The next library day, Jake's book was due back. Slowly, he handed it over. "The instructions are pretty hard." "But it looks like you did take some good notes," said Librarian Beck. "Want to keep it another week?" "Sure," said Jake. Oh. Jake spent the next week reading more of the book, still slowly. The more he read, the more curious he became about things made of wood. He looked at the way the three legs of a stool supported the seat. He noticed that some tables had sharp corners and some were round. He wondered how to bend wood and make the back of a chair. The next 3 library days, Jake renewed Woodworking for Young Hands. Librarian Beck found other books they thought Jake would like, and Jake checked those out too. On a warm, sunny morning, Librarian Beck had an announcement to make. "All library books need to be returned before the end of school," they said. "That way, the library will be organized and ready for when you come back next year." "Wait," said Jake, "the library is closed all summer?" I guess he never heard of the public library. "Of course it is," said Robert. Jake looked down at Woodworking for Young Hands. He hadn't realized he had to give it back so soon. That's Sometimes that's not fun when you have to give back a book you still want to read. That night, Jake had an idea. He turned to a page he had marked in the book. Then he looked around his house. He found a yardstick, a screwdriver, and some 3-inch screws. Then he called Grandpa. Remember, he said Grandpa has a woodworking. Over the next 2 weekends, Jake spent a lot of time in Grandpa's workshop. Jake measured and marked plywood. Gramps cut along the lines Jake made. It's good to see that they're wearing safety glasses and Grandpa's doing the dangerous stuff. Gramps drilled holes. Jake screwed in screws. Jake attached hinges, affixed plexiglass, and painted. Gramps and Jake did a lot of talking while they worked. They didn't need to. Sorry, they didn't talk a lot while they worked. They didn't need to. At last, they were done. On the last library day of the year, Jake brought something very big and heavy into Mr. Tiffin's classroom. It was covered with a large cloth. "It's for Librarian Beck," he said. Everyone in class tried to guess what Jake had made. "Looks like a giant bird cage," said Charlie. It's better than a bird cage," said Jake. "A dollhouse?" asked Alex. "Nope," said Jake. Tara and Jeremy helped carry Jake's surprise into the library. Jake pulled off the cloth. "It's a little library," said Jake. "You built that?" asked Jeremy. "With help from Woodworking for Young Hands and my Gramps," said Jake. "What's a little library?" asked Kimmy. "A little library is a place to share books," said Mr. Tiffin. "People take a book out and bring it back, or they replace it with another book," said Librarian Beck. "It's all for free." "So while our big library is closed, this little library can stay open," said Jake. On the very last day of school, after the class had scrubbed the desks and taken out the trash and written in the memory book, Mr. Tiffin led them outside. There was Librarian Beck with the school custodian. They were standing next to the little library. "I filled it with books," said Librarian Beck. "Want to take one out, Jake?" they asked. "That's okay," said Jake. "I'm going to wait till I can check out Woodworking for Young Hands again next year." See the little library? We have several of those around our town at the parks. All that summer, Jake's little library stayed busy. People put in all kinds of books and took out all kinds of books. One hot day in July, a package arrived for Jake. He tore open the brown paper. Inside was Woodworking for Young Hands. On the first page, he saw this, a stamp that says withdrawn. Then he saw a note. "Dear Jake, you loved this book more than anyone had loved it in a long time. Withdrawn means this book does not belong to the library anymore. It belongs to you. See you next year and keep reading, Librarian Beck." And that's the end. And here Jake just tells you a little bit about the little free libraries and how they work and how you can learn to build one. We have 4 in our town. Ours are painted red and have Snoopy on them, I think. And they are at 4 parks in our town. And we put in donations. Other people put in donations, and then they take out donations. So please check those out when you have a chance. You don't need a library card for those, but you should still get a library card anyway. It's important to have one, especially during school time, to get out as many books as you can from the library. All right. The next thing we're going to do, I'm going to bring the board down so you can see a little bit better, is we're going to do a rhyme called 5 Little Library Books. So let's first put up 5 little library books. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can even do the colors of those books. We have a yellow book, a blue book, a red book, a green book, and a purple book. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 little library books. 5 little books at the library. 5 little books as great as can be. Along comes Andrew with his library card to take one home and read. So how many do we have left? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. 4 little books at the library. 4 little books as great as can be. Along comes Juliana with her library card to take one home and read. How many do we have left? 1, 2, 3, 3. 3 little books at the library. 3 little books as great as can be. Along comes Colin with his library card to take one home and read. Good. How many do we have left? 1, 2. 2 books. 2 little books at the library. 2 little books as great as can be. Along comes Taylor with their library card to take one home and read. Good job. How many are left? 1. 1 little book at the library. 1 little book as great as can be. Along comes Joseph with his library card to take one home and read. Don't worry, we wouldn't run out of books at the library. We have a lot of them. I hope you would come down and see it soon. Let me put this back up so you can see. Excellent. All right, we have one more little quick song. If you're happy and you know it, read a book. Can you make a little book with your hands like this? And then we're going to open it up. Ready? If you're happy and you know it, read a book, read a book. If you're happy and you know it, read a book, read a book. If you're happy and you know it and you really want to show it, if you're happy and you know it, read a book, read a book. And I hope you will read some books and come down to the library and get a library card and take out some books. And I will see you next week for more fun fall stories. Bye.